The Sony 15mm f1.4G lens is my one and only Black Friday deal-a-thon splurge this year. I got it to pair with my FX30 to be a main angle talking to camera lens here in my studio. I'm still working out where and how I want to get it set up, but you're looking at it right now on the FX30. I'm shooting at f1.4, of course, in S-Log3, S-Gamma3.Cine. I do have the shutter set to 1/160th in order to get proper exposure. The lens just arrived yesterday, so this is a very first impressions video, maybe a little unbox, a little demo. We'll take a look at close focus, focus breathing versus focus breathing compensation. How bright is f1.4, Ernie? And maybe some sharpness tests comparing it at different apertures. The 15mm f1.4 is for APS-C cameras and is going to give you the equivalent of about 22.5 millimeters on a full frame camera. In terms of shallow depth of field capabilities, f1.4 on APS-C is more like an f2.1. The obvious alternative to the Sony 15mm f1.4 is the Sigma 16mm f1.4, which by all accounts is a great lens, and it's only about half as expensive as this one, so why go for the Sony? It's not about the 15 versus 16mm field of view, it's more about the extra features that the Sony has that the Sigma doesn't, like an aperture ring that's clicky or declicky, a focus hold button or a programmable focus hold button, AF/MF switch. The Sigma has no physical buttons or switches, it just has a focus ring. It's very much a bare bones lens, befitting its much lower price point. Also, the Sony is of course compatible with focus breathing compensation on camera bodies that have that feature. It's interesting to compare the APS-C G lenses against their full frame G lens counterparts, which have the same features and build quality as the full-on G Masters. This has the same physical features, but it's smaller, more compact, and maybe a bit more cramped. I miss the rubber focus ring on the full-frame lenses. This one is just plastic. It's also a little bit more difficult to turn with just your thumb, although it's doable. And that is obviously a matter of preference. I really like how easy it is to turn the full-frame G and G Master lenses with just a thumb, but it might not feel super precise to you. And it should have a really good build quality because this isn't a cheap lens. I kind of wish that these APS-C lenses were a little bit bigger, although I do get that one of the big selling features of APS-C in smaller format is their compactness and lightweight. Another reason to go for this lens versus the Sigma is compatibility with focus breathing compensation. However, as you can see in the shot, without focus breathing compensation enabled, there's very little focus breathing. When you do enable focus breathing compensation, there is a very, very slight crop, which is indicative of how little needs to happen to correct. I don't really have a great setup to test sharpness, or I didn't take the time to set up a great sharpness setup. So we're basically focusing on the center garbage pail kids card. I tried to focus on the part where it says high rye. For this angle here in my studio, I usually have a 35mm. So this is obviously a lot wider. You typically don't see that door in the rooms beyond in the shot. So I need to figure out exactly how to place this camera. Ideally, I'd like to move the whole camera a little bit closer, but in order to do that, I'd have to put it on the desk or find a way to mount it on the desk. So I'm actually going to move it to another location and just see what we can come up with. So here's another possibility. I'm much closer to the camera. I can actually reach out and touch the front of the lens. At f1.4, you're going to get a little bit of a shallower depth of field here at this distance. So let's just wrap up this very early first impressions of the Sony 15mm f1.4G lens. Overall, I'm really liking it. I was initially kind of put off by its very compact size in comparison to the full frame G lenses, but it's still usable, it's still doable, and I really appreciate having the physical controls like the aperture ring. As somebody who shoots video first and foremost, it has a very close minimum focusing distance, and with a wide angle lens like this, anytime you can get your subject really close to the lens, it's obviously going to increase the shallow depth of field that you're getting. It's great for shooting B-roll and just coming up with interesting looking shots. The f1.4 aperture definitely mitigates some of the penalty of using an APS-C camera in relation to full frame in terms of shallow depth of field. It also makes it a beast in low light. This is f4. And this is kind of what it looks like in here. And this is at f1.4. And this is the exposure that we're getting, obviously, at f1.4. Cons, it's a little bit expensive, which is why I waited till Black Friday to pick up this lens when it was $100 off. It only has 7 aperture blades, and I don't really know how much that actually matters, but I always equate more aperture blades to a higher quality lens. Let me know in the comments if you want to see more videos specifically about this lens, if you want to see me compare it to anything in particular. I've been thinking about doing a Sigma 16mm f1.4 comparison, but also if you'd like to see me compare it to the full frame 24mm f1.4 equivalents, let me know and I can possibly make that happen. So thanks for watching, and maybe I'll see you in another video.